Arkansas Governor Asa Hutchinson says the state is making progress every day in terms of vaccine distribution. The state has given out about 55% of its received doses. This despite some concerns over a possible vaccine shortage. 5 News reporter Veronica Ortega explains.
According to the New York Times, Arkansas is ranked 10th in percent of population vaccinated at 6.5%.
That's one indication that we're making progress, and we want to improve that every day. It's challenging, but we can do better.
So far, more than 410,000 doses of the vaccine have been received and more than 227,000 given to Arkansans.
Last week, when we received our supply of new first-time doses of the vaccine, of 92% of the supply coming into the state was in the arms of Arkansans within 48 hours.
Hutchinson says Arkansas has received its second dose allocation from the federal government.
And this should give people confidence that once you're in the system of having received your first vaccine, the second dose will be there for you.
The federal program, in partnership with CVS and Walgreens pharmacies, is not controlled by the state, but soon some in Phase 1B will be able to get vaccinated at select locations.
We expect to have 3,000 doses going into their system starting on Monday, so they're starting to schedule appointments at the CVS locations around the state.
The Arkansas Department of Health reinforced that the two types of vaccines from Pfizer and Moderna are both safe and effective. But for those that are fully vaccinated, it's recommended that they continue to wear a mask, practice social distancing, and wash their hands, because variants of the virus are circulating around the world.
We could very well have those strains in Arkansas. And if that is the case, if we're able to demonstrate that, these strains are more infectious, and we want to make sure that we do not give them an opportunity to spread in Arkansas.
In Fayetteville, covering news where you live, Veronica Ortega, 5 News.
Now, the governor actually cut his weekly briefing short this afternoon because he had a meeting with the National Governors Association and the Biden administration's coronavirus task force to discuss an increase in vaccine doses to our state. And as Veronica mentioned, large pharmacy chains like Walgreens and CVS will be offering the COVID vaccine to those who are eligible. State leaders say on Monday, pharmacies like these will receive even more doses of the vaccine to prepare for the influx of people signing up to get it.